Hey everyone, it's Christine. Welcome back to my channel and to this video on the full moon in Sagittarius happening on May 23rd at 9:52 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, or New York City time for reference. So this lunation strongly connects to the previous lunation, and of course all lunar cycles do that as well, as it's just a continuous cyclical pattern that we experience throughout different seasons of our life. The last lunation we had in Taurus, it was the new moon. It really strongly asked us to solidify, or at least acknowledge, what or how have our values changed, and what is it that we want to see grow in our lives? What do we want to start planting seeds for? And with this lunation in Sagittarius, we're releasing perhaps outdated things that no longer pertain or resonate with us, and even ways of relating in terms of meaning and depth that aren't going to lead us towards this path that we may have delineated or planned out back with the new moon in Taurus. And if we haven't, that's okay. We can do it in this lunation too. But this full moon is really asking us to start taking action on these values and to get rid of anything that is holding us back in the form of fear, in the form of restriction, anything that's squashing down our joy, our optimism, the sense of beauty that we may define for ourselves in our lives. And anything that is restricting us or not allowing us to expand, especially when it comes to our personal freedoms, our autonomy, and the personal way we express ourselves. So that could come in the form of the way we spend our time, the energies we associate with, how we style our lives, etc. Timestamps are provided below. I use Eastern Standard Time as a reference in general. I also use whole sign houses, Western tropical astrology with Hellenistic and intuitive techniques. So let's get started. Also, everything is always in the description box, and I link timestamps in the comment area too. Okay, there are four major themes with this lunation, and I feel like this is just another octave that's asking us to push the envelope, to push the boundaries, the clouds even further. Imagine yourself, you know those balls the hamsters like to go in and they go running? Imagine if it was more bubbly, if it was more softer, if stretchy is a better word. We're being asked to stretch ourselves, but it's not to stretch ourselves just for the sake of stretching ourselves, just for the sake of doing things that freak us out or scare us. It has to connect back to the values and where it is that we want to go, which may mean taking those bigger leaps, taking those bigger jumps and saying, you know what, I'm just going to pick up and move and start over somewhere else. It's that type of energy where if it aligns or is part of those practical steps, or as part of our belief systems and that inner foundation that we are fomenting for ourselves, we will be more likely to do it. But this isn't just, let's go out and just do crazy things. Let's go out and just scare ourselves every day just for the sake of it. Although if you're part of a challenge of any sort, that could be different. But as a whole, this lunation is really asking us to let go of anything that is restricting us, whether it's things or they are things that we do to ourselves or others. So the first main theme here we have is pushing boundaries to expand. And this goes a lot with what I said about the hamster, but imagine a balloon or even a bubble. Any of you that chew gum or that have chewed gum, especially when you're a kid, you may put a lot of bubble gum in your mouth and keep blowing and blowing that bubble. And you do it until you get the biggest bubble possible, or quite literally when it pops, because then you know the bubble is done. So I feel here with the moon at 2 degrees of Sagittarius opposing the sun at 2 degrees of Gemini, and both have positive relations, I feel, alignments to Pluto here. The moon is making an inferior sextile to Pluto, which is currently retrograde in the sign of Aquarius at 2 degrees as well, and the sun is making an inferior trine to Pluto. So I feel here with several of these energies happening in these alignments, if you feel stuck in any way, limited, you feel like something again has expired in terms of your situation, it could be the way you're thinking, the way you're viewing the world, the way that you want to go about accomplishing what it is that you do, and how you find meaning to what it is that you are realizing, that potential that you want to tap into. I feel like this lunation is going to either sound that alarm off internally, highlight a red button of sorts, and push us, almost as if, I keep seeing a car wash For any of you that have gone through car washes, many of them have a green light when you enter and then a red light. Actually, I'm seeing it differently. Usually there's a green light at the end too when you exit, but I'm seeing a red light, which means to me or signifies that something may have come to a completion here, a way of being, a way of existing, a way of you finding meaning in life in the different layers that may exist, because it's not just a linear process. And fear in itself can be present in many respects, in things that we don't want to do that generally scare us, whether it's spiders or jumping out of a building, or something that we do want to do, but there's still some fear there because it's something we have never done before, and or we are embracing some form of uncertainty or unknown. Maybe like moving abroad and you're like, it's always been my dream, but of course it's going to be scary because you may not always know. The moon highlights here where we want to expand, where we want to push that, again, the bubbles or the bubble, the envelope, the boundaries here, to experience more adventure, more joy, more fun, but not so much just for the sake of fun. Although with the Sagittarius expression, there are elements like that. But I feel like this is too about using these energies to dive deeper into what your soul truly desires at this time. When you are really in that moment of pure optimism, of fun, of love, and you're enjoying what you're doing, whether it's talking to someone or taking a walk, it can be anything, you feel a very complete different shift in the way that you continue to look out into the world, look out in what you do day to day, and proceed forward in life. But I feel like this lunation is also highlighting two things that could be holding you back. You yourself, particularly with the sun in Gemini, and also with others and with fear itself, because sometimes other people can still be perhaps implementing or holding some type of paradigm over you. In other words, they could be projecting a certain definition of what life looks like, what success, what goals, etc. And also the magnitude of that meaning for you. Because sometimes we pursue things because we think that there's meaning behind it in the way that others define it outside of ourselves. But this lunation is asking you, it's time to define that for yourself and to go after it. But more importantly, if there are certain circumstances, people, situations, even your own beliefs or ways of thinking that are holding you back from achieving this, that also requires some thought, because those need to either be updated, they need to change in order to accommodate where it is you're going. I feel like also Pluto here in the mix, I kept seeing Pluto as a supporting actor because I saw a lot of awards. So some of you are going out for big things. You're going forward, you're putting yourself out there in ways you may not have done before. And there, of course, are elements of fear naturally because it's something you may not have ever done. When we haven't done something, we are going to feel naturally that apprehension, that doubt creep up and ask ourselves, whoa, what if that happens? But I feel like Pluto here is allowing us to turbocharge introspectively, particularly since it's currently retrograde until October, by helping us take action. It's almost as if we're in the middle of peeling fruit and we're just taking our time peeling it. Maybe we're using a knife to peel it instead of, who knows, a peeler, because we think it'll get closer to the skin and remove more of the peel to get to the fruit. And then we realize halfway through, if I change maybe to the peeler, I can go faster. Not in terms of the speed of accomplishing or heading to that destination, but simply because it's going to foment that movement forward. I kept getting something about just taking steps forward, just taking one step out at a time. I feel too with the Sagittarius and the Aquarius or Aquarian energies, there's a lot of breaking away here from old ways of seeing things, worldviews, belief system, thought patterns, paradigms, viewpoints, philosophies, and simply releasing any of this energetic shit that's not really helping you. Because sometimes when we are feeling morose, when we are feeling dragged down, bored, stagnant, essentially the lower expressions of where we want to be, of, instead of experiencing joy and fun and excitement and adventure, which are very much the higher expressions of Sagittarius, we may think, oh, this is bringing me down so much. I can't accomplish this. When in reality, it's generally the way that we are going through life up here. It's almost as if we're going to upgrade our computer system, our way of thinking, to something that's more optimistic, that aligns to what it is we want to do, but that's also going to help us enact these changes. It's different. It's almost like when you try on a scratchy sweater, maybe wool, maybe alpaca, and it's scratchy. And then you put on something very soft. Think maybe cotton or cashmere. And I say this only in terms of the feeling itself, not so much for the fabrics, but they help you perhaps emulate or perhaps feel into that, because that's what I'm trying to get into here, is these changes when you are shifting how it is you're feeling and that frequency, it completely allows you to see things from a different perspective. I get a lot of clothes references and trying on different glasses. Sometimes we think we're not good at something because of what's being reflected currently to us. I'll give you an example, because this taps into a lot of this energy about breaking free. And it could be easy to say, just get out there, expand your bubble. But if you've had previous iterations or experiences where you have received a no, felt rejected, or felt like this isn't going to work out, especially if it's a goal. Let's say you wanted to learn statistics. This is a real life example. I remember I took 3 different statistics courses. 3, that means 3 years at separate occasions in my life when I was younger. The first one was in high school, and I remember I think I got a D, low C or D in the course, and it was a struggle. And the teacher made it seem like it was a me problem, like I wasn't trying hard enough. And I was like, I don't think it's a me problem, because I'm putting a lot of effort. I'm trying to understand this, attend tutoring, etc. And it just didn't work. And so I was like, okay, I felt like I had a chip that says, okay, you're not good at statistics. Moved on, second course. I felt like I was understanding it better, but it was still not, I wasn't feeling it. Finally, the third, maybe it's 3 times the charm, I don't know, but the third time, I finally connected to a professor, this was in college, to a course that just simply resonated. And I realized it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the style of teaching, which is so personal. And it made me realize it's important for me to connect to people that are not only patient, but that don't project their shit and tell me that it's a me problem, but that allow me to learn in different ways, because I was a different learner. And I learned in different ways than what was traditionally taught in some school systems. And so I eventually mastered statistics. I got A's, and I moved up higher and eventually became a quantitative methodologist as well. So this is all to say to you, if there are certain goals in life or situations where you feel limited because of these prior experiences or these dings that life itself or other people have reflected back to you, and you maybe have consolidated that internal belief system, which comes with an emotion and of course a feeling that I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I feel down, I don't know if I can pursue this dream or goal, whatever it is. I want you to know that simply shifting how you go about pursuing it, but still pursuing that, can make the biggest difference. And because I kept getting a lot of messages coming through when I was looking at the chart about pushing the boundaries to go after what we want in ways that allow us to grow big time, but that still connect to our values and that are meaningful to us as individuals. So I feel like some people may be feeling a sense of restlessness right now, or perhaps a sense of peace, because there's different spectrums, or perhaps different expressions happening within the spectrum. And this lunation is either helping you realize, oh, I need a change right now because I'm feeling restless. I want to make some type of difference or shift in my life that will help me propel forward, that will help me move, whether it's move out of a situation, physically move, or simply change gears within so that you're doing what it is that you want. It could be the same thing, like I mentioned, kind of like with my example with statistics, but you're doing it in a different way, in a new way. So there's a huge a huge momentous internal shift with our life force energy. It's like someone is giving us the physical life force energy. Imagine it to be a blanket, and we're saying, you know what, we got to tweak this. I'm going to go to the tailor. So there's a kind of a cleaning out, a releasing, letting go of some hairballs that may have attached to it. In other words, energies, peoples, things that, you know, I've been trying it over and over again and it's not connecting. I feel like there's also really big moves coming, especially as Jupiter wraps up. I should say transit Jupiter wraps up its time in Taurus. And on May 25th, it'll ingress into Gemini. And so I feel like this energy to really explore, get curious through that attunement of fun and joy, almost like a little kid. You know, when kids just go off to the playground, doesn't matter if they get dirty or whatever, they just go out and have fun for the sake of having fun. I feel like that is going to really support many of these energies too. So just in a few days, we will be feeling that energy. And you may be already feeling that by simply sensing, I'm ready to do something different. The exploration of a lot of ideas coming to you, or simply navigating different paths forward. There's something here that I also feel is being put to death. And we can feel it. We can feel that some way of being, some way of navigating life, particularly think like manual, think computer system. So it's up here, a lot of beliefs that are shifting, which obviously are going to have an impact outside of us. They're coming to an end. And you may be feeling that simply by the restlessness where you're like, okay, I'm done. I had got to change something. Or with a peace where you're like, I've really cleaned out a lot. I'm ready to move on to the next level. So it's going to be expressed in very different ways for people. I also want to offer a practical tip here. What if? Which is a great line of questioning when you are embracing and pursuing and even indulging in different curiosities right now. And simply asking yourself, what would be possible if I moved abroad? If I took that calculus class? If I started learning a new language? No matter your age, no matter any type of descriptor or limitation you or others may be putting on yourself. What if? What would be possible? A lot of little kid energy came through here because I remember as kids, and if you have kids or around a lot of kids, you may already relate to this. They ask a lot of questions, and especially what if? What would happen? What would you do? Because they're curious and they want to know, like, what would it look like? And so this is a good tip. If there is fear coming up, blockages, or anything or anyone still around you that may feel like a limitation to your own freedom, to your own sense of exploration, your own creative, you could say traveler. You can ask, you know what? They're telling me I can't do this, but what if I can? What if I tried? What if I just took that first step and see what it's like? Because ultimately, whatever we try or do in life, if we don't like it, we don't have to continue doing it. I think so many times people think, okay, if I go to college, I have to do it. If I pursue this major, I have to do it. And I think more than anything, we need to allow ourselves to say, no, we don't. No matter what other people ascribe or put on us or what they think or define success or certain steps in our life, especially when it comes to seasons of our life, look like. We at any time can change our minds. And that's the beautiful energy of the mutable or double-bodied sign of Sagittarius. So we have always the option to change our philosophies, our beliefs, our viewpoints, our sense of adventure and learning and growth. And we can pivot when something is no longer feeling happy or joyful for us, when we are not lit up and we're like, oh, I got to drag out of my bed to do this. We know it's time for some type of shift. Second theme, truth bombs. I kept seeing truth bombs, like truths coming out. And I'm like, okay, even though Mercury is not playing a particularly strong role at the time of the full moon, Mercury rules over Gemini. Right now we have the sun in Gemini, but it's next door in Taurus. So I feel like there's a lot of information, or you can say secrets too, that are hidden that you may not feel, but you know. And I feel like they're going to be unraveled. And there's a sense of knowing what you need to do without realizing the whys or the how you're getting that information. Sometimes you know, it's that feeling when you know it's time to leave a situation or relationship. You just know, and there's a sense of peace. And there could also be through those moments, because Again, human emotions fluctuate drastically. There could be a moment too where you're like, God, this sucks. I know this requires or has to change in some way. And you yourself feel that. It's almost like you come to that point before you actually see it happen. And that's what I feel like some of us are moving through with this lunation truth bombs. They don't have to be good or bad as we ascribe that. Generally, it doesn't have to be anything negative. It doesn't have to be anything positive either. It could just simply be a self-revelation or a reflection and say, I'm finally understanding this about myself, particularly with the sun in Gemini. And Venus will be ingressing into Gemini soon after this lunation. But there's just a feeling like I'm meant to be doing something different, perhaps something more, or meant to detach myself in some ways from the current circumstances that are hindering me, that almost, you may feel like they're invisible locks. What are those things called? Handcuffs. Almost like invisible ties. And I feel like this is helping all of us move forward in trusting ourselves. So the more that you move in that direction of what you are feeling and sensing, I feel like the more is going to be unveiled and revealed to you. I also kept getting strong changes with communities, groups, and relationships, especially virtual connections, relationships, communities, particularly with Pluto and Aquarius. It's currently retrograde right now, so there's deep introspection on asking ourselves, how do we relate to some of these larger themes of connection, of conversation, of meaning, of also perhaps uniting in ways that form a front against certain issues we care about, or even ideals. Lots of changes, and I feel a lot more meaningful. There's a lot of changes here, particularly around finding, cultivating, or strengthening more meaningful connections offline in real life and with others who are diverse but walk a similar path. I've seen this happen, I would say, in the last several weeks, particularly, where a lot of people that I've met across all generations have this strong calling to connect to people more in person, to get off some of these, you could say, tech instruments and use them in a more meaningful way and not just lose themselves. Because at the end of the day, think about it, when you want support, you can get some artificial or superficial support online, but it's not really as meaningful because it goes away quickly. Whereas if you have people within you, or even your own connection to yourself or to something bigger, that doesn't leave. That connection doesn't leave. The third theme, window to your soul's spiritual desires on earth. I'm like, this was a big one. Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces here, forming a superior sextile to Venus at 29 degrees, Jupiter at 29 degrees, and Uranus at 23 degrees, all in Taurus. So here, this is about exploring your dreams, both the dreams that you get when you sleep and your dreams, as in your hopes, wishes, goals, things that you want to see realized, hopefully during this time that you have on Earth. And it's a time to bring them alive with the Taurian energies, to start building that out. A lot of times we get a lot of messages psychically, and perhaps more so with Pisces and also Saturn in Neptune. And sometimes we're like, what do we do with this? Where do we put these dreams? How do we actualize them? But also there could present different forms of, for whatever reason, fears that are coming up. Oh, I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't think I can do that. Or I think I'm ready to change something in my business and my work. I'm ready to let this go. Or I really want to maybe move up the next step with my partner or in my friendships or in my group. So many different things that I kept getting a lot of. But this is about tapping into all of these things that you have been getting. And if you're not someone that can visualize or see, which is okay, you're probably feeling it already. A lot of folks feel it. They're very clairsentient. They can sense things, and claircognizant as well, where they just know. And you don't need a visual reminder of that if you don't tap into clairvoyance either. So big reminder, always tap into how you're feeling, because that's a big, big, big sign for you that either you are lit up by that, particularly if it's a message that has come through for you in whatever means. And this is about bringing that and bridging it into the earthly realm, and to start connecting to that and taking action towards that. Some of you have really big dreams. And I've talked to quite a few people because I'm an intuitive spiritual coach, and I hold synergy calls where I've heard so many amazing things from folks, what they want to do, but they're not doing it. And I can relate. I didn't do what I'm doing for 10 years. I'm holding on to my previous profession. I'm holding on as tight as possible because I'm going to make it work. So if any of you are in those spots and you're feeling resistance and you're trying to make something work, even though on the outside you're like, I'm trying to make it work because it looks good, or I should be doing this, or my parents or my friends or my family or my culture says this is the way to go, but you're not feeling happy inside. This lunation is a wake-up call to ask you, well, perhaps it's time to let go of those dreams other people have for you, or even the dream you had for yourself, but that's changing. And that's okay with the Sagittarius energy because our dreams can change. With the sun in Gemini right now, I'm imagining so many folks are reopening up, maybe from childhood, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury rules over youth. A lot of child energy I kept getting here. And some of you are exploring new things that are calling to you, and you're like, whoa, I never thought I would feel so passionate about it, especially since we have some positive energies here, connections with Pluto. So this is really about letting go how other people define you, your success, your dreams. And it's perhaps a push forward to start doing that for yourself. To start asking yourself, if this doesn't feel good for me any longer, if this doesn't bring me joy, what would? What can I do to change where I'm at now? What's the next small step I can take? You ultimately gotta go towards what you want to do, regardless of how other people feel, or what they say or think, or what they tell you unsolicitedly. Because it's funny, a lot of people have no problems telling you what they think and what you should do when they're not even living your life, or they're not even in your shoes. And a lot of times they're not even in your season of life. It's like someone that doesn't have children telling someone that has kids what to do. No, if you don't have kids, you probably won't understand it. It's time to start trusting yourself and leaning on what you want, what you feel you want to do, what aligns to your values right now. That's why the new moon in Taurus was really important. It was pivotal. There was a destruction or a rebuilding energy there of the old is gone, or I'm tweaking the old, and I really want to build something that strongly supports the life I want to create for myself. And this new moon is saying yes, but now you got to get out and do it. You got to explore, change environments, do new things, put yourself in situations that are going to tap into that energy or vibe. You can say frequency or the channel that you like. It's kind of like when you tune a channel to the radio. If you don't like a channel, you change it. Same thing here, same concept. Some questions I kept getting that may be coming up right now. What do I really want in my life? What do I really want to do? Do I still support these beliefs and ways of thinking? How am I limiting myself or others? How am I limiting myself or allowing others to do this? What's the meaning of me being here? And what does the end look like? A lot of, to me, existential questions around life purpose, mission, our goals, our trajectory, our soul essence, why we're here to do what we're doing, and exploring those different facets of that. There's also a spiritual flavor here that is asking us to turn inward, in so much as it is asking us to maintain that outward expression of our soul. Do what feels right or what feels good to you at this moment, and continue taking steps by tapping into that frequency and asking yourself, does this feel good to me? I know it sounds easier said than done, but if you, for example, really, I would say common example, if you're in groups or in relationships or in connections with people, and after you go out, you realize, I'm not feeling supported. I don't feel good. I feel maybe taken advantage of, or I feel not heard, and you've communicated that, and you don't see change. It's time to expand and allow yourself to grow by forging forward, exploring new communities, new interests, allowing yourself to perhaps reside or bring back some of that energy for yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to invest this in myself and in fomenting other forms of connections or relationships. And that's just a quick example. So when I kept saying throughout this video, tap into what feels good for you. it's really like a barometer, like a check-in with yourself. Because you'll know right away if situations or people, you're like, this is not right for me. The more we spend time in those situations that aren't right for us, the more we are inhibiting our own soul growth. We're staying stuck. And it's amazing because so many of us have different, again, we have different values naturally. We don't all have the same, but for those of us that may seek connection, for example, it's a big one right now. Relationships, connecting, huge topic on the table. Sometimes we stay in situations because we feel like it gives us something. It gives us breadcrumbs, if you will, but it doesn't give us what we want or what we desire, or it doesn't give us everything. And some people may project to you on with that for so many different things. So really take time to tap into that, what brings you joy. And if you don't know, this is a beautiful season, Gemini season, and this lunation, to start exploring. Let go of things that you no longer resonate with. The third theme here, elevate to joy, fun, and optimism. And I mentioned this already. Big push with this lunation to let go of our fears, fearful thoughts, beliefs, any situations and people that keep us stuck. Environments as well, that can be huge. Environments have a huge impact on our mental health, our emotional health, spiritual health, physical too. So if how you are surrounding yourself right now is not really supporting or inspiring you or really allowing you to grow, time to make changes. Maybe let go of things that don't bring up good memories. Maybe clean up your environment. Maybe add in some scents that you like. Put up a picture. It doesn't have to be fancy. You do what you can at this moment with what you have. I remember, because I forgot how old I was. I think it was my 30s. I was redoing like a whole photo thing in my home, and I didn't realize how expensive frames were. I'm like, shit, getting frames, it depends too, but I wanted wood frames. And I couldn't find the right measurements, and I was like, I have to get special frames for that. And finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna hang these up until I get frames, and that's what I started doing. So don't wait for that end result or that happiness to come to you. Start creating it for yourself. Just because you can't have something that you want that moment doesn't mean you won't get it. There's a lot of energy here around that, letting go of anything that is trying to limit your ability to find beauty and joy in the moment. I feel like, again, fear doesn't do anything with us. It's present. It will always be here, but really allowing that to take over, especially other people, and allowing them to subsume our dreams, our goals, and what it is we want to do is not going to help us. It's just going to keep us stuck and perpetuating certain cycles over and over. And those are going to clue you in on what you may need to clean up. A lot of energetic cleanup here. Fear could also ask or promote the point of protection. What are you trying to protect yourself from? Or from who? Or what situation? Or from feeling what? Because that'll also allow you to start unpacking anything that may be coming up, perhaps from putting yourself out there if you want to start your own business, or from joining a new club if you want to meet new people. Whatever it is, because there's always it's like a door stopper energy. You're ready to go out the door in pure Sagittarius fashion, but then the door stopper comes and you're like, what? And so those door stopper energies are simply blocks, limitations, fears. It could be other people or yourself. The moon is also asking us here to tap into our safety, or I should say the safety relating to our personal ideas, beliefs, spirituality, and connection to growth, because this is going to allow us to move forward. Although I think Pluto, making a sextile to the moon here, is helping us do that regardless, and will. But I feel like the moon, we can do this in a way that perhaps allows us more nurturance, more security, and we have greater control. But I feel ultimately with Pluto here, it's letting us know it's time. It's time to do this. It's time to grow. You can't grow in these same situations and environments that you have been in. Remember that Jupiter rules over Sagittarius, and with the sun here in the mix, the sun is in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Pluto in Aquarius. So we have Saturn. It's time we inject more joy, but in a responsible way that's going to help us realize our goals. This obviously, there's also some life lessons involved here, but it's kind of hard to parse things out when we are trying to go towards what it is we want to accomplish, because everything is mixed in. So a lot of unknown destinations for many folks at this time. Change. You may not even know the direction or what you want to ultimately do, but you know you want to make some change here. And this is where we could tap in with all of these alignments, particularly with Jupiter and Venus, into the beauty of small micro joys, into moments, into those pleasures that the mundane life can bring us, but also the connections that we foment spiritually and that we help bring over or perhaps translate into our everyday life on Earth. I kept seeing too a walkway. Again, I get a lot of walkways like the airport. Some of us are on there and we're on there and we're on there until we are able to get off and perhaps see the end of a goal realized or accomplished, and then we get back on. Ultimately, a lot of what we are being guided towards is self-trust here, trusting ourselves in the unknown, particularly with all of the alignments relating to Neptune right now, and a lot of the Taurian, or I should say the planets in Taurus right now with Uranus, Jupiter, and Venus. Trust into and lean into yourself, your own guidance, your spiritual team right now, and turn it over to a higher source, to your higher self, or to prayer when things are uncertain, because we bloom into empowerment in this way. We're not giving anyone, or I should say, we're not giving our power away to anything outside of us when we're able to continue consolidating this. Oh, I think this was it. That was it. I thought I had more messages. I got one channeled message. Go where you grow. And I kept seeing a plant. And I had gotten this earlier in relation to this. I also channeled a song, Melissa Etheridge, Come to My Window, which I've linked below. This is about going towards spaces, places, and people that nurture who you are, that help you expand your light, and that make you feel supported. I kept seeing plants for good reason. So I'll pull my plant here. So imagine you have a plant. And side note, I'm not a plant expert, but I do know the basics. If you have plants, and many of them need some type of light, sometimes a full light, full sunlight, and some shade with a little bit of light, and some do well in relatively darker or dimmer areas. You're going to put that plant where it's going to thrive, right? I wouldn't leave this plant in the heat if it is going to die in high heat, or if it doesn't like a lot of light. Same thing that this channeled message implied, because I saw a lot of plants and I felt myself as if I were a plant, just hanging out there resting. So if you find yourself or are still in situations, still doing things in the same way, but they haven't really resulted in what you want to accomplish in life, what you want to do, how you want to live, that's also telling you this may not be the best area to grow, or the best people to support you to grow, or the best environment for you to grow. And a lot of it had to do with feeling into it. Again, there's a lot of emotions around that. And I kept seeing a lot of different kids playing and just being in that moment of having fun, because kids generally, they themselves don't plan, okay, this is how we're going to have fun, and then this is what we're going to do. There's a lot of spontaneity, a lot of unraveling that happens, perhaps surprises. When kids go out maybe to the playground, or they just go out to have fun, you don't know what happens. They go biking, maybe they find some cool animals, they get ice cream, whatever it is. There's a lot of mini adventures tapped into one. And that's what I kept seeing here. This is also not about forcing the energy, especially when it comes to tapping into the higher expressions of this optimism, joy, adventure, freedom, however you define it as well and connect to it. When you force something, you feel it. There's a resistance. When you're trying to force yourself to have fun, I think a lot of us have been there when we're trying to enjoy ourselves in perhaps an environment, an event, or with people, and we're like, I can't wait to get out of here. You feel it right away. You can't fake that, versus when it's authentic. So this is something that is being highlighted as well with this full moon. Sometimes we have to exit certain places, spaces, and relationships in order to grow. But because that also makes space and opportunities for new ones to enter, and that's what's being highlighted as well. So take stock of what's feeding into your joy and fun bubble right now. If there's anyone maybe that's just constantly not being supportive, maybe being a negative Nancy, or criticizing or pulling you down, I should say. You could feel the weight, the energetic weight of someone's words and presence not really being uplifting, or even the environment that you're in, or even what you're doing. These are all things that are being highlighted. Well, what needs to change? Because we're getting ready to go out there and to expand in such ways that we grow. Our souls ultimately want to grow. They're just like that plant. We didn't come here to stay in the same workshop, same relationship forever and have it be the same. That's why relationships take work, because you grow with them, you grow in them. Same thing in different jobs that you're at, different events, opportunities. Imagine if you don't grow in them, you're going to eventually stagnate. It could be physically, intellectually, emotionally. With reference to the song Come to My Window by Melissa Etheridge. So I looked at the lyrics here, and apparently the song wasn't about love, and this was something that was noted in her autobiography, but it was about her trying to desperately save a love. So I guess her relationship at that time that was crumbling apart. So some of you may still be trying to may be trying to piece or hold on together something, someone maybe, some facet of your life that you don't want to change, but that you know is changing and you feel it. And you may be trying to keep something from inevitably changing. And with Sag being a mutable energy, it's about seeing both sides of the coin as well, but also allowing yourself go with what is coming up and to not force that, because the more you prevent things like that from shifting, that's when things don't always pan out in the way that we want. It could end up even being more painful than we realize. So it's time to go higher and not to limit ourselves. And sometimes when we hold on to things too long, it doesn't allow us to evolve simply to the next level of our journey. There's an excerpt of the lyrics, and I encourage all of you to listen to the song, and visually you'll see there's someone that looks imprisoned or perhaps institutionalized, and there's a window, which is the gateway to freedom and an opportunity to see things in a different way. And some of these words really connected to this lunation. Come to my window, crawl inside, wait by the light of the moon. I'll be home soon. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they say. What do they know about this love anyway? And of course, with the love part, you can insert anything, whether it's your decision to move abroad, to go to school, to do a new job, whatever it is. So there's a lot that's being reflected back. There's a lot that we internalize. And I feel like, again, at the bottom line, I think the scariest steps are going to be standing up for your truth here, standing up for what is real and authentic to you, what you want to do with your life. Because at the end of the day, this is about living your own life, because you're the only one that's going to do this journey for yourself. It doesn't mean you won't have the support from other people, but there's no one else that can live it for you. Okie dokie, guys. Let's get into the all signs. We're going to go through each sign. Quick disclaimer, because I use whole sign house systems, I look at rising signs for every sign from Aries to Pisces. So note that when I say a sign, for example, Aries, it'll generally look to Aries being in the first house. So if you have your sun or moon in a different house, some of the themes may be applicable, but it may not be completely relevant. So just know that your rising sign is the best and most accurate in this case. And you can look at other areas too if it's helpful. My Aries, let's get started. Aries, sun, moon, rising. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 9th house of higher education, wisdom, knowledge, publishing. This is foreign travel, long distance travel, religion, spirituality, beliefs, retreats. Also deals with divination, astrology, occult. So with the moon here in Sag, some of you may be feeling ready to shake things up. This lunation could bring a feeling of restlessness for some of you, especially with Mars in Aries in its domicile at home, forming a whole sign trine here. So you may be getting support. The orb is wide, obviously. The moon is at 2 degrees, Mars is at 17. But still, you may be feeling revved up simply because Mars is in your sign, roaring and ready for you to start doing things. And you may be feeling that restless energy of, I want to get out. I'm ready to do something different. I want to change something. Some of you may be going back to school. It could be formal education, higher education, university, taking courses or expanding your knowledge and say, this is it. This is the time to finally start studying something that interests me. It could be with Sagittarius here. It could have to do, again, with themes relating to spirituality, religion, any type of adventure that could entail travel, deeper thoughts around philosophies of life. I feel like some of you may be, I keep saying conjoining, connecting that to study abroad or taking your learning abroad or even traveling in some way to learn or just simply expand your horizons, have fun, or do something different. With the moon here, this could also mean not just travel, but also moving. Some of you could be moving away from home for the first time, or simply moving away from where you've lived, or taking time to do more travel or move away to a different part of where you live, a different city, town, or another country. I also feel like this may be a time where you explore different options, different things that are calling to you. You may find yourself very much dedicated and having that endurance to explore different things at once with the Sagittarian energy. And I feel like Mars is supporting you all in this at this time. I keep getting completion. So for any of you that are trying to complete some type of schooling, learning, certificate, or complete anything, I feel like this is going to be the lunation to assist with that as well. You've got the sun in your 3rd house of Gemini, and its ruler is next door in Taurus in your 2nd house. So I feel like for some of you, if you are working on income changes or job changes or the way you bring in money, it could have to do with 3rd house themes too that may be helping you, or you may be feeling drawn towards that, especially since the 3rd opposes the 9th. So your 3rd house is in Gemini, and this house focuses on obviously community, neighborhood, siblings, relatives, travel as well. And in Hellenistic astrology, they didn't really denote the distances. So both 9 and 3rd house are travel. They could be long distance, which is relative, or short distance. So there's an exploration here of your locality, of where you live. Also same themes around divination, astrology, occult, and anything metaphysical. With the sun in here, some of you may finally be ready to put down roots here, maybe coming out professionally or wanting to pursue a career in these themes, because you got Mercury in the 2nd house in your Taurus of income, of how you bring in money, and also your values. So some of your values may be shifting in terms of what you want to do with your life. It could be occupation-wise. A lot of themes here coming up. And that's why I see the learning here. Some of you may be wanting or will be changing your job, your career, or what it is you do. And as a result, that's going to change how you bring in money. We also have Venus in Taurus, Jupiter too. So some of you are also looking to expand your income streams at this time. And with Venus in her domicile, again, my Aries in Taurus, a lot of help here in looking for and connecting to things that bring you joy and beauty. And some of you could be looking into healing energies, working with women, things relating to beauty. It could also have to do with like art, especially with Taurus here, art, architecture, anything of that nature. We have Pluto in your 11th house at 2 degrees, forming positive alignments to the moon in the 9th and to the sun in the 3rd. People, another theme here with this full moon. Big shift in people and your network and your supporters and friendships too, and your groups and people that you may align to. You may have felt like lot of changes that have been happening, particularly with the Aries Libra nodes at this time, but also with Pluto making a big shift and starting its shift in your 11th house. I feel like this lunation is also going to allow you to ask yourself, or even say, you know what? My changes have been shifting the way that I am wanting to move forward in my life or connect in different ways is also shifting. And as a result, your 11th house topics, people that you connect with, your network, are also shifting big time. But I feel like you're going to also, as you release or let go or people leave, you're calling in people that are more aligned and supportive to this new version of you and where you want to go. Ultimately, I feel like this full moon is really helping you. I keep getting get back on path for my Aries. And obviously the nodes, the North Node is in Aries. So for all of you, there's a realignment happening in general. And I feel like this year, many of you have been shifting, perhaps re-examining past, where you have knowledge, past hobbies, pastimes, careers, wherever you have built some type of expertise up or something that you have a passion around. There may be changes around that because the moon just does, excuse me, I feel like I'm not talking right. The moon does also bring up fluctuations here. So some of you may be asking yourselves, do I still want to continue doing what I'm doing or not? And this is a perfect opportunity to explore that and to let go what no longer feels right for you. My Aries, thank you so much for being here. My Tauruses, this full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 8th house of death. Changes and transformations, other people's money. It could be your spouse's money, money you receive from other sources. It could be inheritances, wills, estates. Also has to do with grief, anxieties, any fears surrounding vulnerability. And with this full moon here happening in the 8th house, I feel like you are releasing this. Some of you may be contending, getting grief with the moon here. It could be with the death of someone, memories that are resurfacing, or trying to make sense. You know, when you have shifts that have happened in your life, perhaps it doesn't always have to be a death of someone. It could be just a lot of changes or ways you've grown that have made you change. It could be a reconciling here with this full moon of letting yourself know or acknowledging how far you've come and where you're at and how much you've healed in particularly. I feel like there's also, for any of you that have maybe felt fear around commitment or intimacy, or like going the next step, particularly in relationships, I feel like this is something that may be coming up for some of you. You may be thinking about what it means to connect, what it means to have a home. Some of you may be focused on building a home with the moon in the 8th, particularly. What safety means to you and who's part of that home. But I keep getting a resolve or like a reflection on commitment and deeper interpersonal relations, intimacy, if you will, with the 8th house here. Some of you may be at this time coming to terms or resolution of, am I going to commit myself in marriage, for example, or in union, or what do I want in my life? Same thing with children. If any of you have been on the fence about having children, do I want to have children? Do I want to get married? Do I want to do those types of, you could say, deal breakers in relationships? And even for your life, I feel like this is something that you may be resolving, because this energy also gives rise to deeper philosophies and beliefs around these with Sagittarius here. This is also opposing your 2nd house. When we have the sun here in Gemini in your 2nd house, some of you are also with this lunation. Oh, I also want to say, excuse me, with the moon in the 8th, I missed this. Some of you could be losing another source of support that's coming into you. It could be, because the moon is here, it could be a support from another female or female figure, but in general, it could be support from someone that you've been receiving financial support from, or it could be an inheritance of sorts. But I also feel like with the sun in Gemini in your 2nd, new opportunities for work, for jobs, for bringing in income here. right away, particularly with Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus in your first house. Some of you may start to connect or maybe want to expand or build up some of your own passion projects. It could be around anything artsy, Venusian. It could be beauty related, massage, photography, anything creative as well, dance, music. Since it pertains to you, it could be your form of self-expression as well. It could also have to do with writing, sharing of wisdom, knowledge, teaching. You've got Mercury here at the moment too. So a lot of these themes are very similar. And Jupiter and Venus have very similar significations as well. You may be starting to shift more towards how you can integrate some of your interests into your life and potentially make that an income stream. But for many of you, I feel like there's some type of expansion happening in how you bring in your money, also a change in your values. I feel like for many Taurians at this time, there's a shift on what matters to me, my values. There's an adulting energy I keep getting and wanting to create that and solidify that. It's almost like setting up your home, getting this stage of your life ready. And remember, it's relative. Your home doesn't have to be a traditional like house. It could be wherever you feel is home, whether it's your car, your camper, wherever it is. I feel like there's a complete renovation with this lunation about asking yourself some of these deeper questions of what you want in life. And those answers are coming to you if they haven't already. We have Pluto in your 10th house, Aquarius, of career, of legacy, of public image, reputation. So this lunation is very much impacting how you're seen in the world, and also perhaps your occupation for some of you and what you're doing in general with your energy, where you're putting it at this time. I feel like some of you may explore very different opportunities because the sun trines Pluto, and some of you may receive an unexpected, it could be a job opportunity or an opportunity to bring in an extra income that is different than what you imagine. So Pluto is in Aquarius and Saturn is its ruler, its traditional ruler. And Saturn rules over, take a look where Saturn is. Saturn is currently in your 11th house of Pisces. But Saturn also rules your 9th house. So they're very much connected. And also, if I didn't say already, take a look at where your natal Saturn is. But I feel like there's people that are supporting you with this shift. Many of you I feel, are going through changes when it comes to what you are doing right now, whether it's a job, career, where you spend your time, if you're in school or retired as well, how you want to navigate this next chapter of your life. And it's going to be through people. And with Saturn and Pisces, I feel like a lot of it is spiritually and divinely guided. So some of you, if you're working with ancestors, well, I'll just say your spiritual team, you may be getting a lot of messages about this. And if you haven't made intentions, this would be a great lunation to make an intention about some of these changes that are coming. Tauruses, I hope this has helped. Okay, my Geminis, this full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, spouse, marriage. This is also the house of karma or pleasures in this world, contracts, and open enemies. So with this moon here, I feel like some of you are changing your relationships, and that could be, again, I don't say just losing or releasing, because sometimes when there's changes in relationships, some go, and then you have new folks that come in, but there's fluctuations happening in your relationships right now. And I feel like this full moon could mean changing communities, changing to different groups, and even realizing any relationship that you have, platonic or romantic, that it has to be aligned to you in some way, especially with the sun here. You may be seeing with this lunation if there's any differences in perhaps outlook, views, beliefs. It could make or break the relationship. For any of you that are in romantic partnerships, because the moon can signify romance as well. And with your 7th house, obviously, this is another sector where romantic relationships can go to that next level. Some of you may realize that you have differing or opposing views on life and where you want to go. In other words, your roadmap may look the same, but the approach may be different. You may have different philosophies. Some of you may want children, for example. Other people may not. Some want to get married. Others are like, well, can't we just be together? Is not enough? Those types of reconciling. So there could be some realizations and truth pop up with this full moon in Sag, where you're realizing this isn't where my particular truth lies at this time. And it's going to either strengthen or break a relationship. I feel like there's going to be changes here in general because you're changing as well. And Venus is about to enter Gemini soon as well. And Jupiter. So some of you are also exploring and changing who you are. It's almost like a getting to know yourself. For any of my Geminis here, some of you may feel like rebirth. Even though the nodes aren't in your sign, some of you may feel like a rebirth energy, like you're being born again, or there's a new chapter where you're wanting to explore. You may just have been feeling that, especially as Jupiter inches its way into your sign in just a few days. There's a sense of wanting to explore, get out. Is this it? Is there more? I know there's more to life than this. And some of you, there's big changes coming up. You have Pluto in your 9th house. So this forms a sextile to the moon in the 7th and a trine to the sun. Some of you are perhaps, if any of you have business partners, you could be leaving those or some type of contracts or work situations as well, and learning or going back to school with Pluto here. And this could be something that you really have a passion for, that you've been studying or wanting to study long term, that's going to have an impact. Because in the 10th house, you have Pisces and Saturn. And Neptune in particular makes a sextile to Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus, all in your 12th house at this moment. But like I mentioned, Venus and Jupiter, they're going to ingress very shortly into your sign. So there have been a lot of changes and clearing out that have been happening. Perhaps a lot of time that you've taken for yourself, or you have been in a lot of solitary moments in your life to reflect, especially with Mercury here. A lot of messages coming through to you on what it is you want to build in this new chapter of your life. I feel like this full moon in Sag, because Jupiter rules both Sagittarius in the 7th and then Pisces in the 10th, this has, I would say, another effect with what's coming up. Even though we don't have any other planets that form an exact degree-based aspect to the moon, take a look at your natal chart and see if you have any other planets or points at 2 degrees of Pisces. But in general, we could say the sign itself, the whole sign, I feel like there's a shift happening in your career, in your relationships, in how you're seeing your public image that's coming. And this lunation is just the start of it for many of my Geminis. I get strongly, some of you are going to shift your work because some of what you've been doing in terms of your values, your beliefs, and just simply how you're changing, that means your work is going to change as well, or what you do. Okay, I hope this has helped, Geminis. Thank you so much. My Cancers, Cancer rising, sun, moon. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 6th house of hard work, labor, servitude. This could be small animals, things like pets, anything smaller than a sheep. And this is also the place of being of service or of sacrifice to others. In modern astrology, obviously, if you've read my intro or listened to it, I practice Hellenistic astrology, but I'll say too, because sometimes this reverberates and people receive different connections to this. This could also have to do with your day-to-day routines, although in traditional astrology that's denoted with the third house. Also, one of sickness, troubles, challenges, hardships. Sixth house is a malefic house. So if you have been dealing with any sickness, injuries, health, stress, burnout, naturally the antidote is self-care. That's why self-care is usually denoted in this house. So with the moon here, this has to do with your physical body. Some of you may be letting go of anything or anyone that may have harmed your own energy, your physical, mental, emotional bodies, anything that hasn't been helpful or supportive or nurturing at this time. You may be focused on healing modalities. And since Jupiter rules this house, you could be tapping into alternative modes of healing. With this lunation, it could be energy healing, pranic healing, Reiki, theta healing, all sorts like that. Massage or body work. I also feel like some of you are tapping into divination too as a way to heal yourself. So this could be tarot, oracle, astrology too, medical astrology. There's much more, but alternative ways to heal yourself that's coming up here. You have the sun right now in your 12th house of Gemini. And I want to say this, and it sounds so cliche, but the sun is shining a light on any, you could say, darkness, anything that's been unconscious that's allowing you to heal, because usually we look to the opposing axis to help with support. And with your sixth house, some of you may be, again, tapping into the alternative modes of healing. It could be metaphysical ways of healing. We got Venus and Jupiter will ingress into the 12th house very soon. And so this could be taking care of yourself in terms of self-care practices, nurturing the body, therapy, anything psychological too. There's various modalities that deal with that as well. I feel like there's a lot of healing that's been happening, both with the physical and the mental planes. We have Pluto in your 8th house. Yes, a complete clean out happening in your 8th house of Aquarius right now, forming a sextile to the moon. So some of you are letting go and have been resolving grief. It could be grief of the body. There's books like Body Keeps the Score where any grief, any pains you've had, you may be tying the links to how they've manifested in your body. You got a lot of alternative stuff here. And you may be taking an extra focus on your healing in general. This lunation may be prompting you to let go of things that you've been carrying, things that you've carried for so long, especially trauma, abuse, grief. And I feel like Pluto here is helping you do that, almost like it's time to dig it up and we're letting it go. So you may feel an energetic release or letting go with this full moon. Jupiter also rules over your 9th house, Pisces. We have Saturn and Neptune co-present in this house. So I feel like some of you too, again, with the 9th house, very similar signification. Some of you may be tapping into divination, astrology, occult, metaphysical, esoteric practices to help heal yourself on all different planes. And your spirituality in general. Huge focus on learning, on wisdom right now that may be helping you. How do I say this? Spiritually and earthly. So some of you are getting messages, knowings. You could say psychic, intuitive messages that are helping you with your 6th house. I feel this lunation is allowing you to tap deeper into getting to know yourself, how to heal yourself, how you can do this and take that role prominently, and how to let go what doesn't serve you. A lot of letting go energy here. My Cancers, I hope this has helped. My Leos, Leo rising, sun, and moon. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 5th house. of love, romance, dating, sex, friendship as well. This creative expression, creative projects, gambling, sports, games, entertainment, fertility, and children. So here in the 5th house, there could be changes here with all of those themes. If any of you are parents, particularly mothers, mother figures, or you have children, there could be changes here in their development, their growth. Some of them may be getting ready to maybe leave the nest, they're moving out. There could be also changes where some are moving in. Some of you are preparing to have children. I also feel like some of you may be saying, I don't want children as well. Who got this? There was another sign where you may be saying, no, I'm not really certain that I want this. But I also feel like with this energy here, some of you may be letting go or diversifying what it is that you do that brings you pleasure and joy. Almost like cutting down your commitments in order to make room for care, for nurture, because there's a special focus here on your body, yourself, your community. There could be changes to in your community because the moon and the 5th house both have and share these significations. And then Sagittarius, so maybe your community is shifting who you hang out with, the people you spend time with. You're letting go or you're changing where you spend your time in general. And the 5th opposes the 11th, where the sun is currently at, and Jupiter and Venus will ingress in just a few days. So your network, the people that support you, friends in general, and communities, big change with this lunation where you may be letting go of anything that is not right for you anymore. There's a focus too in the coming days on female friendships in particular, with the moon in the 5th and also Venus about to enter your 11th. Huge focus on females, sisterhoods, women, feminine energy. I feel like some of you are, because of where you're at right now, your own beliefs and your values have changed, and that has impacted your creative expression, your connections to, I keep getting friends with you in the 5th, who you hang out with, but also too, if any of you are wanting to date or who you go out with, it's people in general. It's impacted the types of people that you have wanted to mingle with. And there's a letting go of the type of people. It's like the profile has changed. Like people tell you, who do you naturally become friends with, or who do you naturally like to date? It's like the profile's changing. And I feel like Pluto in your 7th house in Aquarius is impacting this. Because again, your natal planets will have just as much to say here. Some of you are taking action to go towards people that are more authentic, that feel like home to you, that feel like you can grow together. Because if you have been in any groups that have kind of been stagnant, ever been with groups or people like you reconnect with them or you connect with them and nothing changes, it's just the same. And if it's been years, you're like, what in the world? I feel like Pluto is really helping you to move forward. For some of you, this could be releasing friends or people, even creative hobbies, things that you have done for quite some time. Jupiter also rules over your 8th house, which is Pisces, and we have Saturn and Neptune co-present here. So again, there could be themes because the 8th house forms a square to your 5th. So there could have been tension here in trying to build intimate, close connections. If any of you have dealt with that romantically, with dating, for example, or even if you're in a partnership, there may be fear here that you're resolving over having children, becoming a parent, dating, sharing love, or any of that, or even friendships, because the 5th house rules over friendships. And we have Jupiter right now in your 10th, soon to ingress in your 11th, in Taurus. I feel like this is going to help you start to ease into that and tap into, again, what feels right for you. I feel like Neptune is sextiling both Venus, Jupiter, and Uranus in your 10th house. Is also bringing about some changes. And with this lunation, I feel like you've already been undergoing this. It's nothing new. But I feel like some of you are going to get a lot of clarity after this full moon with what direction you want to go in, especially when Venus and Jupiter ingress into the 11th house. And you may be leaning on the support of others in particular for help, for assistance, and for the next chapter. My Leos, I hope this has helped. Thank you so much. Okie dokes, my Virgos, Virgo risings, moons, and suns. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 4th house of home, family, ancestors, roots. This is also one of secrets, mysteries, occult, real estate, property. Changes here. Some of you could be selling or buying a home, but I get moving. I keep getting like a sand coming out because I also get images and messages as well. I feel like some of you are moving out. There's changes related here. Some of you have been in, you could say, families or any relationship of sorts with family, romantic partners, or even friends where you're realizing that it's not working for you. Sometimes when you outgrow certain relationships or groups, you can't stay there anymore. And there has to be a change of environment to support that. So some of you are going to be moving or realizing you're ready to move on. I also feel like some of you could be moving for work. You're either moving to look for work or a job or to start that next journey of what you want to pursue, your time and energy. Or some of you have gotten a job and you're moving because of that. Because the 4th opposes your 10th house, and we have the sun here, Gemini in the 10th. Some of you could, if you haven't considered, pursuing, what is it called, digital nomads, the lifestyle where you travel a lot. You may be getting an itch to do something different. I also feel like some of you are nesting up. So there's different things here. Some of you are going to be essentially going on the road or wanting to go on the road and making plans and preparations to do that with this lunation. Almost like saying, okay, what do I need? Maybe a trailer, a camper, a car, or maybe I'm just going to backpack or do couch surfing, whatever it is. There's a preparation and planning here about living on the road and making your home more nomadic. Others are trying to bring that into your home where like, okay, I can't really leave or do that this time, but there's a focus on home here for many of you about how you can bring that sense of safety, nurturance, comfort, and joy into the home. So with Jupiter also ruling Pisces in your 7th house, some of you may be cleaning out the people in your home. If you have roommates and you're like, nope, it's not working out. If you're in a relationship, there could be changes there. But beyond that, I feel like it also speaks to how you bring in the things that you like in terms of decoration, decor, all of that in your home to support this sense of curiosity, the sense of adventure, the sense of joy. We've got Pluto in your 6th house of work, servitude, labor, sacrifice. This is also one of challenges, hardships, sickness, illness. So I feel like some of you, because this also sextiles your 4th house, some of you are very focused on what can I do to support my environment? What can I do to support myself, and how can my environment best support me, especially in terms of my health? You know, sometimes when you live with people or you live in a certain environment, I said this in the collective message with the lunation, but sometimes you realize there's certain things that are just not helping you. Maybe you want to walk more, but you don't really have areas to walk, or you don't have a little gym area, or you don't have the basic equipment. That could be something that you are exploring. Same thing as how to maintain or revamp your routines, how to take care of your energy, how to take care of yourself in general. If any of you have taken care of other people, I feel like this lunation is putting the focus back on you. Because you have your 7th house in Pisces with Saturn and Neptune co-present there, and there could have been some perhaps confusion, some over idealization of relationships, particularly those in the home, those that you lived with. It could be relating back to your ancestry as well. And I feel like this lunation, you're seeing things for how they really are. There's a lot of truth coming out. That's why I mentioned earlier with the main messages, there's truth bombs. That was one of the themes of this lunation. We have Mars in the 8th house. I don't know why I brought that up because I haven't focused on that for other signs, but I want to say a lot of cleaning out energy for you guys. Many of you have been dealing with anger issues or repressed anger coming out. It could have been due to boundary issues or people violating your boundaries, and it's coming out for expression and healing at this time. Okay, my Virgos, I hope this has helped. My Libras, this is for Libra Sun, Moon, Rising. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 3rd house of neighborhood, local environment, community, siblings, cousins, uncles, aunts. Also writing, teaching, divination, occult as well, any of those topics. Also travel, short distance, and learning, more like elementary or earlier type of learning. Some of you are changing maybe the way you present yourself. If you are on social media, you may be letting go or making changes to how you disseminate or share your knowledge or wisdom, or even how you connect with people in general, because everyone uses some form of technology. Also, there could be changes in terms of your home with the moon here in the 3rd. Maybe some of you may be considering a move within your community, or taking time to nurture your community in different ways, or leave behind situations that aren't supporting you. With the sun in the 9th house in Gemini, some of you may want to explore, because I'm getting like a whole new vibe. It's time for a whole new exploration of people, of places, of themes. You may be exploring a lot of different things right now, kind of to see what floats your boat, what piques your interest. But I don't feel like it doesn't have to be far away. There's a lot of focus on learning here, on immersing yourself in different topics, especially with the sun here, and then Venus and Jupiter are about to ingress in your 9th house, which is only going to support this. So social connections, education in general, any type of learning, knowledge, schooling, formal or informal, like workshops, self-study, being highlighted here with this lunation. So some of you are making way by letting go of anything that is no longer supporting that, or feels nurturing or feels good at this time. There's a sense of adventure and wanting to expand with your 3rd house. So some of you may be connecting to, whether if you own your own business or you work in your local community, by getting out more, but also taking advantage of connecting to people in that level instead of just virtual, far away types of communities. Pluto is in your 5th house right now of Aquarius. So the moon sextiles your 5th house. Several things here. Some of you could, if you're interested in dating, love, romance, some of you, this could be a time where you are letting go of beliefs or of people maybe that don't support that, and you are exploring that. Because there's a possibility here of finding that in your local neighborhood, by pursuing what it is, those themes relevant that interest you in particular. And the sun is in your 9th house in Gemini, forming a trine to Pluto in the 5th. So again, a lot of focus on creativity, of learning, for some romance, which could be part of this. Some of you may meet potential mates or romantic partners, not in the ways you've been doing before, if it's by apps or saying, okay, I'm going to like a speed dating network event, simply by doing what you love, by pursuing your passions, by learning, exploring, like getting out there. You know, when you just want to explore, and you're like, okay, today I'm just going to do spontaneous things. You go to the flea market, you go to a new market, you go to a new bookstore, you just peruse and look through things. and then you meet people. Sometimes it happens when you least expect it. That's what I'm seeing here for my Libras. We also have Mars in his domicile in the 7th house of Aries. And Mars rules over your 2nd house and 7th. So again, a big key on people here too. Some of you may be meeting people through these different ways, and these people could ultimately, you could connect with them, collaborate with them in some way, which could have a positive effect on your income. But right now there aren't any transits in the 2nd house. That's just popped up. I feel like many Libras are going to be just, I'm getting like expanding, flying their wings, so getting out more. So for any Libras that have felt maybe more introverted, particularly with Jupiter in the 8th, now leaving, you may be feeling ready to go out there and explore and learn and tap into what is calling you, because I feel like that's going to bring in surprises that you don't expect. Thank you, my Libras. My Scorpios, Scorpio sun, moon, rising. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 2nd house of income, resources, material possessions, values. So for some of you, there could be changes here, obviously. Some of you are letting go of an income stream, changing jobs as a result, so that changes your income. But that could also mean bringing in a new source of income with the 8th house. Some of you may be relying on other people because the sun is in the 8th house right now in Gemini. You could be relying on support, could be from a father figure, but sun also represents career. So some of you may also be receiving income through a spouse, through a partnership or business or some other type of organization as well. For some, it could be inheritances, though I'm not feeling it for most. I also feel big time for many Scorpios out there that are listening, values. Some of you are letting go of outdated values, particularly as it relates to parents or people that have had an impact on you. It could be parents, people that have influenced you or that you've surrounded yourself with. And I say this because right now Pluto is in your 4th house and it sextiles the moon and trines the sun. I think it's positive though, but I feel like there are changes coming in terms of what you value, which is going to change how it is you want to perhaps bring in income, make money, make a livelihood, in other words. And it may have to do with your family. It could be family of origin, who you consider your family in terms of who you live with right now, where you want to go and how you want to create that. Huge focus on family for you all. Some of you, if you're working as part of a family business or work with your parents, there may be changes happening there too. Your 5th house is also ruled by Jupiter, Pisces, and we have Neptune and Saturn co-present there. Some of you, I feel, maybe have been undergoing some type of consistent, or how do I say this? You may have been pursuing some type of creative expression, creative project, any form of creativity that is helping you with potentially building a separate income stream as well. And Neptune at 29 degrees sextiles Jupiter, Venus, and Uranus, all in your 7th house at the moment. So for some of you, a lot of things happening. There's a lot of shifts happening. Some of you are going to be going up to the next level in any romantic partnerships. For those of you that are still dating or wanting to date or explore that, I feel like things are going to continue growing and changing here, especially with Uranus in the 7th house. But I feel like it's peeking back to your values. I keep getting values for you all. Some of you are undoing what was done to you from people putting or projecting what they thought you should be doing and how you should be living and what they feel is a secure life. And I feel like there's a take back here of energy where you're like, I'm going to define that. And it may look very scary, it may feel very scary, but it may also look very different to what other people say to you. I think this lunation is also highlighting the importance of trusting yourself, because some of what you're feeling, no one else can feel, and they can't support that. Only you can. So there's no validation coming from other people except you. Mars is in its domicile right now in Aries in the 6th house. And this is Mars's house of joy, or where it enjoys itself, I should say, even though it's a house of labor and hard work. So some of you have been focused on either working, studying, putting forth your effort right now and cleaning up. A lot of reconfiguration happening for my Scorpios. But I feel like it has to do strongly with your beliefs and your values right now, and how you are aligning your life to meet those. I hope this has helped. My Sagittarius rising, moon, sun, this full moon is happening in your 1st house of self, soul essence, identity, expression, your physical appearance, your body. So for some of you, there could be a complete change in your identity and who you are. You may be shifting how you want to look like, how you want to appear, how you are expressing yourself. With the moon here as well, this could have to do with how you identify, particularly with your feminine energy, but how you nurture yourself, how you take care of yourself, how you want to take care of yourself. So a lot of health-oriented aspects as well. With the sun opposite the moon in the 7th house, I also feel like this is about taking time for managing your energy, your time, boundaries too, with other people. Learning where you are, where you fall within relationships, and what's yours and what's not, and not taking responsibilities for others. There's a balancing act here, because I feel like some of my Sagittarius risings, you may have people, particularly, it could be very, I would say, especially with Gemini in the 7th, you could have people that are not always maybe committed or endure the course, that may send messages to you that you are not completely 100% sure of. You may not understand. So there's a potential for miscommunication here. And I feel like this lunation is helping you come back to self and ask yourself, what is it that you desire? How is it that you can communicate? And how can you honor yourself while being in the presence or connection with others? Because Jupiter and Venus are about to ingress into your 7th house of Gemini in just a few days. So I feel like this is almost a moment where the universe is saying, okay, a lot of people are going to start coming into your life. It's going to be important to honor who you are, to take care of yourself, to nurture yourself, and to make sure that you define who you are separately from others, and that it's not one or the other. Pluto right now is in your 3rd house of your neighborhood, local community, siblings, aunts, uncles, communication, knowledge, wisdom, also divination, occult, astrology. So this forms a sextile to your 1st house. So some of you could also be with this lunation either leaving, changing, or starting some type of way you are expressing yourself. In other words, maybe you are adding a new platform to your passion, to your hobby, to your business. A new way that you are sharing your wisdom, teaching others, and it has to do with you. I get social media virtual. Some of you could be teaching or showing up in your local community, workshops, different events, public speaking. Others could be going on YouTube, blogging, TikToking. I hope that's a word. Instagramming. So there's a change here in how you may want to be seen, like a rebranding of sorts that may be happening with this full moon, where you may be shifting things a lot. With Pluto here, you may feel a deep need to connect to people, especially with the 7th house activated, on a different level. Jupiter also rules your 4th house of Pisces, of home, ancestors, roots, family, and we have Saturn and Neptune here. So the moon here forms a square, I would say a whole sign square, because there aren't any other degree-based aspects, but I feel like home is another area being activated with this lunation, where you may be wanting to, some of you could be moving, shifting up or changing your home so it fits the new you, or you're cleaning it up in some way. I feel like many of my Sagittarius, your home is part of your comfort, particularly with some transits going on. And that's going to help support you, your energy, your body, your health in general. Something to think about there. Be careful of burnout, especially right now with Mars in Aries and its domicile. Some of you may be feeling extra busy, maybe going hard at it, especially with your creative endeavors. If you have children or are dating or in some type of relationship in that way, that could also be playing a prominent role right now. Huge focus on making sure that you take care of yourself and don't allow yourself to get drained, to overextend, or to allow other people to violate your boundaries. My Sagittarius, I hope this has helped. Thank you so much for being here. Capricorns, Capricorn rising, sun, moon. This full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 12th house of the subconscious, I would say the unconscious too. Solitary events, places, spaces. This could also be one of fears, hardships, challenges, sickness and illness too, spirituality as well. I feel like with this lunation, you may be releasing some type of belief, limiting belief. It could be something the past has had on you, whether it's a past life memory or something in this incarnation, or some type of fear or anything that has impacted your body, especially with the moon being here. And you have the sun in the 6th house. A lot of healing coming up here. Capricorns, you may be focused on integrating routines, habits, systems, practices that support your body at all levels, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally as well. Some of you may be pursuing alternative modalities. You may be working with your dreams or dream states, therapy, psychological modalities, again, metaphysical modalities like energy healing. I feel like there's a huge focus on taking time out. Some of you with this lunation, you may be asked, or something that's coming up is, how can you make more time for yourself? How can you prioritize yourself? How can you take care of all aspects of your being? Pluto is currently in your 2nd house of Aquarius right now, and sextiles your 12th house, and also trines your 6th house of Gemini. I feel like the way that you're bringing in money, because money is a big theme here, and some of you may be receiving support from others, from behind the scenes, from people you may not know. But I also feel like the work that you're doing with the sun in the 6th, opposing the 12th, some of you may be thinking about how you can merge that. It's almost like if you know you are going to be going into a profession that, or you're working in a profession that is particularly cumbersome, stressful, or whatever it is that may ping or affect your health in some way, or who you are, your vitality too. This may be a point of asking yourself, is it worth it? Do I need to make changes? And if so, what changes do I need to make? Because there's a reconciling here of that. Same thing with the 2nd house coming up. The more you take care of yourself, I feel like that's going to have a positive effect on your income. But I also want to say your values too. In Aquarius, I feel like some of you will be perhaps doing things in a different way in your line of work. That just came to me. Jupiter also rules the 3rd house. And for you, that's your neighborhood, cousins, aunts, uncles, communications, early education, divination, astrology, occult, and that sort. Some of you may have felt like things have been difficult in the last few years with Saturn here. And I feel like that has also had an impact on your health with the 12th and 6th house axis. If any of you have planets, obviously points, depending on where your ascendant is in the first house, but if you have any other planets in the first, that would obviously make a sextile there and could offer support for who you are. So I feel like some of the lessons you're learning right now in terms of taking care of yourself, letting go of what's not yours, learning boundaries, is going to allow you to share that with others in some way. Some of you may be guided to speak, to teach, or to simply connect with people at a local level, like energy healers, alternative healers, your local neighbors and community members, to facilitate this. Okay, thank you so much, my Capricorns. I hope this has helped. My Aquarians, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, this full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 11th house of friends, networks, groups, uplifters, supporters, patrons, allies, people in general that like to support and help you. This is a positive house. There could be changes here in terms of any of these themes that I mentioned. So people leaving or you shifting that in some way, particularly with the sun in the 5th house. There's an expansion energy because in just a few days, Venus and Jupiter will ingress into the 5th. Some of you may be expanding several things here because the 5th house rules over children, fertility, love, dating, sex, creative expressions, creativity, sports, games, fun, etc. And Venus has her joy in the 5th. If any of you are exploring different passions, having more fun, that's going to have an impact on your 11th. And I feel like you may be, I wouldn't say getting rid of, but perhaps releasing people that are not helping you. Almost like if it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. So what it is that you do, what it is that lights you up, the people that you connect with have an impact as well as in the 11th. It's almost like they work in tandem. Pluto is currently in your first house of self and has just started its journey. So you may be feeling like you are experiencing and have been experiencing a massive change in self, how you identify, who you are. Because I feel like that is also changing the people around you. Some of you may have left communities, I'll say groups that you ally with, and even people that have supported you. But I feel like that's changing you to help you align to what it is that you want to go towards and where you want to grow and feel supported. Jupiter also rules your 2nd house, Pisces, of income, money that you receive, your occupation, values, and possessions. And so I feel like there could be changes. There could have been quite a few changes in the way that you bring in money and how you bring in money in general. And I feel like it will continue to shift because you're shifting. You may be feeling like what you've been doing either needs to change, you need to evolve in some way in that position, or do something completely new. Okay, my Aquarians, I hope this has helped. Finally, my Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, this full moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 10th house of career, reputation, public image, legacy, how you're seen, where you put your energy in the world. So if you're a student, you're retired, you don't work, or you're a stay-at-home person, maybe you're not working at this time, it's simply how you're seen, where you put your energy and time. So there's a release here. There could also be changes here. Obviously with the moon, with this full moon in your 10th, some of you could be changing how you work, particularly since the moon is opposing the sun in the 4th. There could be a focus on balancing personal and work life and delineating stronger boundaries. Some of you may be changing jobs, or offered new jobs. Some of you are leaving the workforce and maybe going to the home, maybe becoming stay-at-home parents, or simply taking time out from the workforce. Some of you may be retiring as well, and this is it. This is a new chapter for you, where home is going to be the focus. But I also feel like you may be letting go of what work, career, public image means to you, your reputation as well, and also letting go of how you thought maybe this particular career path or where you thought you'd be at would look like. Some of you, because you have, I would say natally, your 10th house ruled by a double-bodied or mutable sign, you may have felt like there's been a lot of fluctuations in your career, work, life in general. And this has to do with finding meaning in what you do. Because obviously Pisces also rules your 1st house, and this forms a square to the 10th. And so it's really important with who you are as a soul, with your essence, with your vitality, to also exude that and communicate that very much to the world at large at the 10th. And it may feel different because society may have put some type of construct on what that was supposed to look like, and you may feel, well, mine doesn't align to it. So there's a little bit of a review, almost like sorting through, well, what does this mean to me? Can I be happy doing this, even if it doesn't look like what other people say it should look like? I feel like there's a lot happening there. Some of you, I feel, maybe getting busier at this time because you got Mars in its domicile in your 2nd house of income. And Mars also rules over your 9th house as well. So some of you may be learning more, going back for maybe certifications, higher degrees. But I feel like learning in general, that's going to support where you're heading and these changes that are coming up. If any of you are stepping out of the workforce or making money, I feel like this is potentially helping you. If any of you are planning this or have seen this or know if there are going to be changes in that area. Okie dokes. Thank you so much, my Pisces. Okay, well, we're going to do a final card reading to see anything else we need to know. I'm just pulling 3 tarot cards and 1 oracle. That's it. We got 4 of Wands, 7 of Wands, 5 of Wands. Shit, a lot of fire energy. Sagittarius, Aries, Leo. A lot of fire here. Talk about release here, letting go. Some of you are letting go of anything that hinders, interferes, destroys, or affects your peace in some way. Because this is a beautiful card, 4 of Wands. But these can present some challenges here. And I feel like this lunation is having you release any doubts, fears, anxieties, particularly when it comes to changes regarding other people, situations, or even decisions you may need to make on releasing things that are just not supporting you. Because I can see how you may want to connect or hold on to something or someone because of that potential, or simply because there's still redeeming qualities about them. Trying to say this in a delicate way, because just because you release someone doesn't mean that person is bad. It's just not right for you anymore for whatever reason. And yeah, I'll just have to say disclaimer, some people do shitty things and they do bad things. So there's an energy coming through about finding peace right now in all of this chaos that may be coming up, and what you can do, because it doesn't matter if people come to you with drama, gossip, if it's chaotic, because there's going to be something that'll always try to unnerve you that'll try to affect you. And this is about maintaining your sense of joy, your sense of peace, your sense of harmony, celebration. Look at this. Four of Wands is coming together energy. But the Seven and Five of Wands is not. There's some conflict, there's doubt, there's a need to defend oneself. So there's a big cleanup energy here happening. If there are people around you, energy, situations, or even yourself, where you're sabotaging or hindering your ability to simply enjoy life, the moments, or where you are, that's a big note to reconsider. I want to say too, sometimes we are quick to judge and say it's something or someone from the outside that's affecting us, when in reality it's us allowing other people to do that, especially with boundaries. We have a voice and we can say it to people and delineate, that's not okay, or I won't accept that, or yeah, no, I'm not doing that, and then we walk away. Some of you that have been in cycles where you feel like people are impinging, interfering, or causing some type of this energy in your life right now. It's like, wait, I want this, but why this? Boundaries are needed here, strongly. Huge boundary energy. Some of you are also working through anger problems, anger management, learning how to tap into anger in a healthy way, because anger is fine. But if we're reactive, or we are allowing this type of energy into our lives, that speaks to us too about boundaries. We got power and intention for the oracle. This is the angel oracle deck. This is the energy to embody and to imbue. Power and intention. It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning about intending your day, setting an intention for the day. And it's so Sagittarius-like, so Jupiterian, about visualizing and seeing, kind of like what athletes do. They visualize a successful game or race or whatever it is they do. It's kind of the same way with your day. And this isn't something new, by the way. I think a lot of people practice this, but it's the power of your intention, and the intention itself emits power, because you're already dictating and saying to the universe, this is how I plan my day to go, and I'm going to maintain that. Yeah, sometimes shit happens, but if you let every little thing intrude like this with the wand energy and affect you, it'll derail you. You're constantly going to feel defeated, powerless, empowered, disempowered, and like you don't have any agency in your own life. And there's a lot of light here and fire. I think too, with this full moon in Sagittarius, it brings up the notion of where power lies. Because Jupiter is the great benefic, ruled by Zeus in Greek mythology. Zeus ruled over all the gods. Many of them were his siblings too, on Mount Olympus in the skies. And as fun and playful as he could also be very stern, very brutal as well. There's a dual side to both. This is not calling you to enact your evilness, but to more or less say, I have a choice here. I can reclaim who I am, if you desire, by simply asserting my boundaries. There's a lot of communication here, but also action. Shitload of wand energy, and what I keep getting is action speaks louder than words. So if you have been dealing with people, situations, or even yourself, where you keep saying something, because there are no swords here for communication, but if you have been communicating something over and over again and it's not changing, that's a huge sign for you that it's time to walk away, it's time to end, and it's time to take action. So in other words, stop talking, stop telling people what to do, how to do this, what's bothering you. If people aren't willing to change and they're not listening, you got to show them. More importantly, this is about you valuing yourself and walking away from anyone that disturbs your peace, your joy, because it's affecting who you are too. Well, I hope this video has helped, comment down below and share with me what are your intentions. What are you releasing for this full moon in Sagittarius? Have a beautiful lunation tomorrow. I'll see you soon.